Hi, everybody. Welcome to our live stream on Google AdSense policies. This initiative is run monthly, and we are going through different topics every month. And you're more than welcome to join to any of them. I'm Ezgi. I work in the support team. And
I'm Greg. I'm a policy enforcer on the trust and safety team.
Yeah. So, in order to join other upcoming AdSense on Air live streams, please visit g.co/AdSense on Air. And if you have any questions with regards to AdSense policies, please let us know in the questions link that you see on the screen at the moment. So right after the session, we will be sharing a feedback form with you. And in that feedback form, you will have the option to let us know how you felt about this session. And also we will be sharing the PDF format of the deck with you. So to start, Greg?
Yeah, we can start with the agenda. So first, I'll be talking to you about Google's digital advertising ecosystem and how our publisher policies are designed to protect and also make sure our users or advertisers and our publishers have a successful experience. Then I'll jump right into AdSense policy in action, sharing with you 8 tips on how to avoid ever having to have a negative experience with the policy team. And then I'll go straight into the specifics about what policy violations are most common and how to think about them and how to avoid them from happening to you. And then lastly, I want to emphasize the fact that we're humans reviewing these pages. We're not robots or algorithms. We're people, and we want to do the best we can. And we actually listen to you as publishers, as well as our users and our advertisers to update our policies based on your feedback. So first, I'm going to talk to you right about our digital advertising ecosystem. So our advertising ecosystem depends on the success of advertisers, users, and publishers. This is why we invest heavily into technical and human resources. We see each of these players as equal sides of a triangle, and we take success of all of them equally. So our role at Google is to help facilitate this relationship. We want ads to be useful, varied, relevant, and safe for users when serving them across the Google network. Publishers trust that the Google network will provide high-quality brand advertisers and coverage across a large number of topics. That's why all of our policies are designed to ensure that advertisers trust our network, which in turn benefits publishers. We are committed to keeping users happy so they return to use Google products. That's why our goal is to create useful and trusted products, a safe environment on the web, and prioritize user experience across our products, which in turn means strict advertiser policies. So there are a lot of benefits to enforcing publisher policies. For example, it helps advertisers trust our digital advertising ecosystem and feel comfortable spending their advertising budget with us. Creating a good experience for users and ensuring that they avoid spammy ad implementation or inappropriate content is one of our main goals. This allows publishers of all sizes to access over 1 million Google advertisers without the need to maintain direct relationships with these advertisers. Our policies are always fully transparent, and they're posted and described on our website. They are enforced consistently and fairly throughout our network as well. If you ever have any questions as well, we always have videos on AdSense policy on our YouTube channel. We have blogs dedicated to AdSense policy education, and all this is designed to help our publishers stay compliant. So next, I'm going to share 8 tips to help you have a great experience with AdSense policy. The first is never click on your own ads. This is usually goes without saying, but basically our ads are designed for our users on your website to look at them and click on them only when they think they're useful or interesting to them. We always know when you click on your own ads, and we never count those clicks towards revenue. And you actually might get flagged and might get into policy trouble if we notice this becomes a pattern with you as a publisher. So never click on your own ads. Another principle to follow is always think like a user. Your goal as a publisher should be making your users happy. And that means making navigation easy on your website, making content relevant and interesting. If users can find easily what they're looking for on your site, they'll also come back to your site over and over again. Also, be sure to choose an ad style that's easy for your users to read and understand. They don't want to be confused between what's an ad and what's unique content on your website. Provide relevant and engaging content that gives users a reason to visit your site. That's why user experience should always be paramount, as users do not return unless they have engaging or useful content. It's also very important to, if you want to monetize, thus, to keep the site family safe and legal. So what does that mean exactly, or why do we have that? Well, Google manages advertiser relationships so that you don't have to. And to provide ads to publisher sites for the months and years to come, they need to trust our network. That's why, with the strong roster of advertisers, publishers also benefit from our vast supply of ads. Our policies are in place to protect these advertiser relationships, which ultimately protects publishers that work with us as well. Yeah. Google has policies in place that limit ads per page to ensure a healthy overall ecosystem. We've defined AdSense program policies for the benefit of all users, advertisers, and publishers. So users need to have a positive experience on publisher websites because users only benefit through relevant and useful content. Advertisers must find value in where their ads are placed. So they should not expect to be on publisher sites without any content or with very low quality content. Publishers benefit from reliable revenue streams from advertisements, but these advertisements should only be placed on quality publisher websites. Never place ads near images that may mislead users into thinking that the images are also associated with that content. This also would apply to games as well. The goal is to always focus on the user and do not try to trick your users, as they are unlikely to return to your website. Advertisers pay for their ads to be placed on websites in a manner consistent with positive user experience in mind. So publishers only benefit by focusing on their users by providing great content through a reliable and consistent user experience. As I've said in the past, with user experience paramount, users will return to your websites and advertisers will remain happy. Never duplicate your content on multiple pages or subdomains. So Google encourages publishers to create high-quality sites rather than a large quantity of sites. Duplicate content does not really provide a good user experience. So focusing on one site and making that one site rich in content is really the best thing to do as a publisher. Make sure to create added value to your users rather than confuse them and make them jump from page to page and subdomain to subdomain. And always track your traffic. Remember that we're all in this together. Publishers have a responsibility to monitor their traffic for anomalies. Traffic should not spike during unexpected times for most websites, for example, on holidays or after regular business hours in geographies where your ads are where your website is targeting, for example. And that's one of the main things you should do to make sure your traffic isn't coming from bots by mistake or someone's hacking your site. Make sure that your site has these tracking capabilities. There's also a lot of side benefits to proper utilization of analytics, and that means you can optimize your website. It helps you identify opportunities across traffic sources, again, different geographies and devices, as well as different pages and browsers. It helps you improve your user experience because you can see which pages are popular among your visitors and which pages drive them away. Understanding where your visitors' attention is focused will also help you to place your ads where users are most likely to look at them. This in turn helps you grow revenue. Make changes based on how earnings are affected by aspects of user behavior, such as visit frequency and page depth. And lastly, never modify your own AdSense code. Our AdSense code that we provide you is already designed to optimize the user experience as well as to optimize the publisher and advertiser experience. And so always follow the code implementation guide. You can find this by going to our Google Sites. And once we email you this PDF slides, you can find the link directly in this slide as well. That will take you directly to the ad implementation guide online. So you still might be wondering, what are the most common reasons that publishers receive real policy violations now that we've given an understanding of what principles to follow and what to avoid? So I'm going to go more into detail about this right now. So here are the 8 most common policy violations and what you can do to remain compliant. I'm going to go into depth about each of these 8 in the following slides. so you can get more of an understanding of what these mean and how to avoid these violations from happening to you. Number one is ads placed on pages that are primarily dynamic content. Now, dynamic content sounds like a big word. Basically, what it means is never have ad code on a page that's, the primary purpose of the page is live chats or instant messaging or auto refreshing comments. And the reason for this is because our advertisers and us will be unable to determine what content their ads are placed next to. With auto refreshing content, it could lead to other violations such as explicit text or pornographic content or things like that that advertisers don't really appreciate and don't want to have their ads next to. And this could also mean a live Twitter update on your page. It's okay to have that on your page, but if it's the primary focus of that page and it's what users are visiting that site for, that might be problematic from a policy perspective. The next violation kind of runs into that. It's sexual content. Google Ads should never be next to sexually explicit content, and also any sexually gratifying or suggestive content. Even if it's not complete nudity, it's still, if it's sexually gratifying or suggestive in any way, that can be a violation. And that includes lingerie photos. And now we're realistic about this. Not every photo of someone in a bikini can be sexual content and a violation. Like, if someone's just in a bikini at the beach and waving to you in the photo, that's totally acceptable. Or if a couple is kissing in the photo, that's completely acceptable. But if the purpose of the image or that content is sexually gratifying in any way, that's when it becomes a problem from a policy perspective. The next violation I'm going to talk to you about is deceptive layout. And this violation means that the page might encourage invalid clicks. And this can mean ads being too close to photos or games or the content on your site that users might be clicking on. Like for games, this is the biggest issue because on Flash games, users might be clicking a lot on your game. And if ads are too close to the game itself, they might accidentally click on the ad when they really are just trying to play their game. And that's a bad user experience. And it also leads to a poor advertiser experience because it might mean that clicks on that ad aren't genuine and might make them be paying money when they shouldn't be having to. We actually, to help you with more specifics, an ad should be at least 150 pixels away from Flash games or from photos that are clickable content in any way. So keep that in mind, to keep it at least 150 pixels away. The next violation I'm going to talk to you about is unnatural attention. And this is just drawing attention to ads that isn't organic or doesn't really provide a good user experience. Examples of this would be flashing arrows or having a lot of colors that draw attention to that one web advertisement. Remember that the purpose of your website is to provide good quality content to users and not just to convince or trick people into clicking ads. And so providing unnatural attention hurts our advertisers and our users. This kind of runs into mislabeling, the next violation I'm going to talk to you about. And that means placing labels next to ads that might suggest they're part of the unique content on your site rather than separate advertisements that we are providing to you. So the only acceptable headers in English are advertisements or sponsored links, and anything else might be considered a violation. Of course, we have equivalent translations for other languages, so you can find on our website what the translations that we would allow for advertisements or sponsored links for your local language. Make sure that you don't accidentally confuse users into thinking that your ads are part of your website. That is the big issue with this one. The next one is happens quite often. Unfortunately, it's copyrighted content, having copyrighted material on your site. And this can mean anything, such as the obvious stuff like placing your ad code next to streams of a Hollywood movie that you don't have rights to distribute, or having a download button to download a Justin Bieber album that you don't have the rights to distribute. Things like that. But it can also mean more things beyond movies and music. It can mean certain photos or certain pieces of art could be copyrighted. Not always, but sometimes. So make sure to be careful about that. And also anything that could be copyrighted, even books can be copyrighted. Some are in the public domain, some aren't. So make sure to be careful that and know that you have the right to monetize that content. You have the right to distribute that content. Always make sure to double check, because we may have to demonetize your page or ask you to provide legal documentation that we know that you have the right to distribute this content if there's any confusion. Next is explicit text. And this, of course, can mean profanity on your websites or it could also mean erotic stories or jokes or discussions that are explicit. And the issue with this is, as I've said previously, we have a family safe network. That's our priority as AdSense policy enforcers. And having explicit text, most of our advertisers don't want that. And we search to make sure that pages that have explicit text are demonetized and get policy violations. So always make sure the content you post on your site is family safe. The last violation I'll talk to you about today is violent content. And that includes anything from bloodshed or fight scenes and gruesome or freak accidents to things like violent bombings and graphic photos of that. This is because if users don't want to see extreme gore on their site most of the time, and also advertisers don't want their ads to be appearing next to this content. This could also include not just fight scenes or freak accidents, but it could include surgeries or dental surgeries that might show a lot of blood, or it might be very graphic or have open sores, for example. Things like that just advertisers might not want their ads to be next to because it makes them uncomfortable and it might make users uncomfortable as well. So we have policies in place to protect our users and advertisers from seeing this type of content next to our ads. Next thing, I really want to emphasize the fact that we listen. We really aren't just robots and algorithms that you might think that we're really far away from these real life decisions, but we are humans. And every time there's a problem, humans look into it and try to make sure that we do the best we can to have a great ecosystem for our users, our advertisers, and our publishers. And so I'm going to talk to you about what we've done recently to update our policies based on your feedback, as well as the feedback of our users and advertisers, to ensure we have a better experience, not only in the policies themselves, but also the experience and how to help remediate and how to make sure you understand what policy violations are on your page and what specifically you can do to help fix it or request a review. So the first update I want to talk to you about is valuable inventory. So this update lifted our previous restrictions on number of ads served per page. Previously, up until August 2016, you could only serve 3 to 5 Google ads on a given page. And that depended on the product you used. But now you can actually, as publishers, serve as many ads as you want on your page with a big catch, provided that there's more content than ads on that page. Ads here includes not just our own Google ads, but it can mean any ads from any other ad networks you work with or from direct deals that you have with advertisers. So make sure that the blend of ads can never exceed the level of content visible on your pages. This is important to mention as well, as this has to be unique, original content. So it can't be scraped content that you clearly didn't create. This has to be real content. The whole point is to balance the needs of the user who wants to have a good experience with the needs of the publisher who wants to have as many ads as possible at the same time. So this policy is really meant to update that for this. And that's because a lot of pages now are might be the endless scroll style layout, which obviously 3 to 5 ads would be unfair, but it's a very, very long article or a very long piece of content. So that's the main issue plan we did after feedback from valuable inventory. The next policy we've updated recently is dangerous or derogatory content. And the press calls this our hate speech update. And we have strict policies that define where Google ads should appear. And in the vast majority of cases, our previous policy and tools worked just fine as intended. But recently, we've had a number of cases where brands' ads appeared on content that was not aligned with their values, or they were uncomfortable placing their ads on that page. And so we continually review and evaluate our policies. And as cultural and societal dynamics evolve, we make updates that are improving the user experience as well as the advertiser experience. And in most cases, we determined that a policy change was necessary. And so for that reason, we've invested in brand safety and expanded our policies related to hate speech to ensure that ads are not appearing against dangerous, hateful, or derogatory content. This could be content that tries to incite hatred towards a certain protected group, things such as that. And so make sure your content is compliant from this policy, because that's very important for our users and our advertisers, as well as you as publishers. Our next change recently was in earlier this year, actually, and it was regarding pop-ups and pop-unders. And we actually removed, hold on. Yeah.
It's the next one.
Yeah, I see. So actually, I'm going to talk about this ad for this policy change first. It's we removed the 300 by 250 mobile ad restriction. So in May this year, we removed the restriction on these big ads on mobile pages. Because we care about users, these layouts cannot completely push content off the viewable screen, but we allow them on the to be monetized if the ads don't completely take over the screen and push content completely below the viewable screen. And so we made this change to actually satisfy feedback from publishers, and we researched how this may affect our users. And after this research, we were satisfied that this would be okay. We lifted the restriction for publishers to do this. And this is a perfect example of how Google balances the needs of publishers along with our efforts to keep users and advertisers happy. So we're really happy to make that change for everyone here. Now I'll talk to you about pop-ups and pop-unders because we added more clarification and simplified our policies around this earlier this year. So in short, users completely hate pop-ups and pop-unders. We don't want to punish any publishers who have this implementation, but it's just simply not a good experience for users. So Google no longer allows ads to be placed on pages that load as a pop-up or pop-under. So keep that in mind. That's no longer allowed. And we do not allow our ads to be placed on a site that triggers pop-unders at all. So basically, if you're thinking about having this kind of implementation, we can't really work with you in the AdSense network. So keep that in mind. Now I'll talk to you about page level enforcement, which I think everyone will be very excited to hear about. So previously, when we found policy violations on a site, we had to restrict ad serving on the entire site completely, even if it was only on a few pages. But now we only restrict ad serving on a page-by-page basis for violations. So if only one page on your site is violating, then only one page is demonetized, and other pages that are policy compliant will continue to serve ads and help make you money. Keep in mind, though, that we will continue to use site-level actions as needed. Typically, if there's a huge portion of the site that has a policy violation, we'll have to take a site-level action. Or if the site has egregious or serious violations, such as fraud or some sort of illegal content, we will have to take site-wide action. And we still reserve the option to terminate such accounts if we have to. That's never our goal, but sometimes we have to do that if we see a history of bad acting or the whole business model doesn't really make sense for the AdSense network. But for the most part, we will take actions on individual pages because we know that this benefits publishers as well as advertisers. And I'll explain more about that next. Because with this change, we are taking enforcement actions while minimizing publishers' impact. So we can now take a surgical approach to enforcement that will allow us to be much more precise in how we disable ads. Because of this granular level of precision, we can provide more specific information about violations, along with education about them and a simple appeals process. So we're very happy to do this. We think it protects our users, advertisers, and our publishers in a way that doesn't hurt revenue as much as it might have in the past. We also have our new policy center, which shows pages that have violations and what those violations are. This is directly to you right as you log into your AdSense account, you can access your policy center. So this makes it a much better user experience. The policy center enables you to see what pages or sites have violations and what type of violations in a very straightforward way. You can even request a re-review of pages after fixing the violation. And I can explain more about that in the next slide. So you can see here that the enforcement, once we see what the violation is on your policy center, you can check the violation. You can see what the violation is. It gives you a little rundown of what that means. And then you can see exactly what page that violation is on. And once you fix that violation or remove the ad code from that violating content, you can request a review directly from your policy center by selecting Request Review just right there. It's very easy. And we will have a human, not a robot or algorithm, review this page for you within 7 days. And then we'll get back to you. We'll either let you know that your policy violation is fixed and we've no longer demonetized your page, or we'll let you know that there's still some more things you need to fix, and you can request a review later. I know some people have been asking this in the past, so I'll go ahead and answer this now, but you have up to 100 re-reviews you can request in a month. And so that gives you plenty of opportunities to get more of an understanding of what the violation is and if you fixed it. So that's very exciting, and we're glad to have this feature added to you. From the page level side, if you remove the ad code on violating pages, you don't even have to request a review at all. We'll actually just completely remove the violation from your policy center automatically within 7 to 10 days. So we're very happy to have made this policy change because we think it's a much better user experience. However, most of our publishers are policy compliant, and so they'll just see this when they visit their policy center. If there are no policy violations, you just see a big blue thumbs up. So hopefully that's how we can get everyone have their accounts look like soon. Know that we're committed to making it easier than ever for publishers and advertisers to remain compliant, because we want you to succeed. Because when you succeed, we all succeed. And that's really what the policy team is all about, making the advertisers, publishers, and users as happy as possible and as successful as possible. We also are committed to furthering communication about policy throughout all of our channels. What support do we provide, you might ask? Well, we have a policy notification email, as well as end product notification that we send to you whenever there's a policy issue on your account. We also have help resources on our help center, along with troubleshooters to help you fix common problems that publishers like you face. We also even provide direct human support to publishers if they make more than $25 a week. So we're very happy that we can provide as much support as possible to help everyone become policy compliant. Thank you very much, and I'll bring it over to Ezgi.
Thank you, Greg. Well, thank you very much for going through our policies, the 8 most common policy questions and violations, and also what has been changed after we've heard your feedback and the new policy center. That was great. And please let us know about what you thought about this presentation and fill in the feedback form. It will be sent to you right after this. And also, I am happy now to open the floor to our live questions that you've been submitting since the beginning of the session. And if you have any questions now as well, please feel free to submit them too. So I'm excited. Let's start.
Yeah, let's look at some questions.
Yeah, we've got some questions. So actually, I've seen this question a lot as well. James is asking, I received a violation for a website that I don't actually own. What should I do?
That's actually a good question because I see that a lot as well. And what this means is that it means that someone might have taken content from your website because, of course, most websites are open source. You can just grab the page source. And so it's not unheard of that there might be ad code from you as a publisher on someone else's site that you have nothing to do with and you don't want to monetize it at all. Mm-hmm. And that's why on the Policy Center, we have a new feature. We call it site authorization. And if you use a site authorization feature, it means that you can select exactly which sites that you know that you own and that you want to monetize. And you can just block any other website from being able to monetize with your ads. And that means that you'll never receive any policy violations from that page anymore, or have to deal with anything involving any issues that they might have on their own site. You only have to worry about the sites that you monetize and that you own and operate. So that's why you can just access that through the Policy Center. And you can also learn more about how to turn on that feature by going to the AdSense Help Center online.
Well, that's great. And Martin is asking, how can we ensure the content policies are not violated in news sites with all the sensitive content about wars, natural disasters, accidents, etc.? So actually, you went through the Gore content policies, and you've explained it a bit, but let's go a bit more in detail.
Yeah, this obviously applies to the Gore policies a little bit, but it also applies to our sensitive content policies, which you can also find in the Help Center. But what that means is, of course, sometimes they're just very tragic events, and it would be very tasteless for us to place ads beside content about, for example, school shootings or a recent bomb attack. Advertisers don't want their ads placed on content with those pages. And of course, if you're a news site, sometimes as a news source, you have to talk about these things. And sometimes when that's possible, we will just target our ads differently on that page. For example, maybe the Red Cross will have their ads shown on that page instead of another publisher or another advertiser. Or there might be, otherwise we might just not serve ads on that page at all. And we don't necessarily hold that against you if you're a huge news site. Sometimes sensitive policy violations will have to happen because sometimes publishers or advertisers just don't want their ads next to that content. Yeah. Of course, if the whole website is just dedicated to very sensitive topics, then that might be more of a problem from AdSense policy perspective. But otherwise, we look forward to working with news organizations who just want to talk about news.
That's fine. So another question from Roberta that we actually get very often. Can I use sticky ads?
Yeah, I get that question a lot as well. And in short, unfortunately, usually the answer is no. Only premium publishers that have explicit approval from their account manager to put sticky ads on their website are allowed to do so. However, there's one exception, and that's with anchor ads on mobile. So you can place these anchor ads, and you can go to our AdSense Help Center to get more of an example of what that implementation looks like. But you can apply anchor ads on your mobile page, even if you aren't a premium publisher. So that's one way where it's not exactly a sticky ad, but it's very similar, and that's the best option for AdSense right now.
Yeah, very good. And so Laura is asking, I got a URL level policy problem for a URL that I actually deleted 2 months ago. So why am I still receiving a violation for it in the policy center?
Yeah, and thankfully this doesn't happen too much, but it can happen from time to time. And that's usually something to do with your ad implementation. We might, for some reason, still have ad code on that page, and that we might still be detecting from our systems. And that would mean that the policy violation will still show up in your account, even if the page no longer exists. So that can happen from time to time. And we try to avoid that from happening, or improving our tools to make that happen as little as possible.
But don't forget to go and check those URLs to see if there's any ad codes there, even though you deleted the content, and just remove the ad codes. So Katerina is asking, what are the native ad policies, especially on mobile? Can I have a banner ad and a native ad on the same screen?
Yeah, well, thank you, Katerina, for asking that question. And in short, we don't have any specific policy on native ads, whether that's on mobile or on desktop. However, a lot of native ad implementations relate to our already existing policies. For example, you want to make sure your ads are clearly differentiated from actual content on your page. You want to make sure that if you have native ad implementations, that you still clearly label advertisements away from regular content and use some other differentiating factor. Because if you do that, then native ads are completely policy compliant. And banner ads, again, you can indeed have banner ads and native ad implementation on the same screen, but also make sure that they don't violate any other policy violations. If it's possible for you to have a banner ad and native ads on the same screen while still providing a good experience to users that doesn't lead to more ads than content or deception, then that's completely acceptable from a policy perspective.
Perfect. And our last question for today's live stream is coming from Boris. He's asking, I recently bought a website and the ads are not serving on it. I cannot appeal for the site through the Help Center form. How can I reach out to the policies team?
Yeah, so this can happen from time to time as well. When you might have gotten a website, recently bought one, and little did you know, it was actually already had to take policy action on it by the previous owner through no fault of your own. And the best way to do this is to talk to your account manager. Then your account manager comes to us, and then we will investigate and make sure that you can monetize that website again if it's appropriate to do so. We don't outreach directly with publishers, but we always are available to communicate through your account manager.
Yeah. So that's the end of our live stream today. Thank you very much again for joining in. And don't forget, this is a new program, and there are monthly live streams about different topics every month. And our next one is actually at the end of January, 24th of January, and we are going to be talking about what's new and what's upcoming in 2018. And actually, it's going to be a really good one. You're going to get good updates. So we are looking forward to seeing you there. And I think at the moment I can say see you next year.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us. It was really great to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Bye.